Hey, real quick, just before you get into the video, I notice I say meta on like almost every socket type, which I should have just known that meta is only for the helmet. Whatever site I was reading off of for the Pre Raid BiS list and everything, it kept saying meta. I thought that was weird, but I just kept going with it. So whenever I say meta, just know that I mean like a red, blue, or yellow. Meta is only for the helmet. What's up, gang? Scone here, bringing you a little Mage Pre Raid BiS video. Maybe you have Nax gear, maybe you don't, whatever it may be. This is going to be a video with your main item, Pre Raid BiS, and then an alternative Pre Raid BiS item, in my opinion. There's many items out there you can choose, but these are the main two that I would pick if they beat my current item at the moment going into TBC. If that made any fucking sense. So to start off, Spell Strike Hood. Tailoring, BOE, a friend can craft it for you, or you can buy it off the auction house. I would highly recommend to craft it, buy it, whatever it may be. It's got a meta socket, a blue and a red, decent base stats, good crit, good hit. It's got all the good stats for Mage, the stats you want, right? And then the alternative to that would be the Evoker's Helmet of Second Sight, which is a quest item from Shadowmoon Valley, and the quest is called Terran Gorefiend I Am. I don't know too much about the quest as of now, but the helmet has decent base stats, about the same as Spell Strike Hood. It's a decent alternative. It's got the same crit. Yeah, it's got the same crit. You lose the hit, which is pretty shitty. You definitely want to make sure as a mage, and have any caster really, you want to have not max hit. You want to be hit capped to make sure that you don't miss, or a much higher chance for enemies to resist your spells. Wow, I can't fucking talk. This is annoying. Alright, moving on to the neck. Brooch of Heightened Potential from Shadow Labs. Blackheart the Incinerator. Decent base stats, 15 stam, 14 int. It's got hit, it's got crit, it's got spell damage. I mean, the three you want, you know? So, I mean, right there. And then its replacement, or not replacement, but its alternative would be Hydrofang Necklace, which is 17 stamina, 16 int. You get hit, and then you get a little bit lower spell damage, 3% or 3 damage lower on the spell damage. You get some more hit, which isn't too bad. So if you're lacking hit, this might be better than the other one. And then, of course, you're losing the crit. And then the Hydrofang Necklace is from Heroic Underbog Gaz-An. Heroic Underbog Gaz-An. Alright, moving on. As for the shoulder slot, your main Pre Raid BiS is a PvP item, Gladiator's Silk Amos, but let's just exclude PvP for the moment, just go for PvP items. So if that's the case, then your BiS item would be Shoulders or Spaulders of the Torn Heart from a quest chain in Shadowmoon Valley. Again, Shadowmoon Valley is an awesome zone where a lot of your gear is going to come from, and major lore and portions of the games that come from Shadowmoon Valley and TBC. And it's from the quest chain, the Cipher of Damnation. And the alternative would have to be, I would say, Mana Etched Boulders from Heroic Slave Pins Quagmire. With the Mana Etched Boulders, you lose crit and you lose a good amount of spell damage, but you gain a meta socket and a red socket. But with how much flat spell damage you get with a Torn Heart, and you still get more crit, I would still say that Spaulders of the Torn Heart is better over the Mana Etched Spaulders. Okay, moving on to the back piece. Your Pre Raid BiS number one slot, or number one item, would be Septic Oracle Cloak, which is from Shattered Halls, Talon King Icus. It's got pretty decent base stats, 18 stam, 18 int. It's got spell hit, which of course you want. Lacking spell crit, but that's okay. You're going to get crit from other pieces of gear, and you definitely want to make sure and hit that spell hit cap. And 22 base spell damage and healing, not too bad. And then its alternative would be Cloak of Entropy, which drops, or is a BOE world drop. So it's really best to go for just grind the dungeon to get the Septic Oracle Cloak. But the Cloak of Entropy has 11 intellects, and it's got some hits, less hit by 2, and then a little more spell damage, so it makes up for that. But still, I would go for the Septic Oracle Cloak. Alright, moving along. Next piece of gear is the chest, which we come along to another tailoring profession item. And this one you have to have tailoring because it's BOP. You can't buy this one. You have to have tailoring, and you have to be spec'd into Spellfire specialization, which that might be for a whole other video, but in a nutshell, you have to be spec'd a certain one out of Spellfire, Moon Cloth, and Shadow Weave Cloth, or maybe I got some of the names wrong, but those are the three, and you can spec into each one you want. You can only choose one, and when you craft it, you get two instead of one. I believe you can still craft the other ones as well, but you only get one. I could be wrong on that, though. Could be wrong. But anyways, the Spellfire Robe, it's kind of lacking on some base stats. I mean, 17 int, woo. Then you got a meta socket and a blue socket. You get nice crit, nice on this from the fire spell damage, and as well as arcane. This is based around a fire mage. I mean, basically a mage in general. In essence, all gear is going to benefit a fire or any type of mage, arcane, fire, or frost. So, but I'm going off the fire BiS list, right? So, 72 to fire, and then the nice crit and the sockets, and then its counterpart would probably have to be, if you're lacking crit, Robe of the Crimson Order, which is another BOE world drop, unfortunately, which is 23 int, 30 spell hit, and then 50 spell damage and healing, which is a decent, nice little chunk. You don't get any sockets, but still a nice alternative to the Spellfire Robe. But obviously the Spellfire Robe is going to be better. Moving along, Bracer, which would be, Pre Raid BiS would be Crimson Bracers of Gloom, which is from Heroic Ramparts Omar the Unscarred. Good base stats. It's got, again, hit and 22 base spell damage. And then the alternative would be Bracers of Havoc, which is another BOE tailoring item. You get more spell damage with the Bracers of Havoc, but the Gloom Bracers you get hit. So, and typically, even if you hit max hit, or hit cap, or soft hit cap rather, more hit doesn't hurt, right? So I would still go with the Crimson Bracers of Gloom if I didn't have max gear and I was just like leveling with regular gear and all that, right? And going for my Pre Raid BiS. And then Bracers of Havoc would come in as number 2nd. You also get a meta socket with that, which is kind of nice, and you also get more flat spell damage, but you get hit with the Bracers of Gloom, which is always nice. Moving along, obviously, again, tailoring, hands, Spellfire gloves, BOP again, and it requires Spellfire tailoring, of course. It has, again, low on the base stats, 10 ints, 2 sockets, a meta, and a blue, and then, of course, got crit, and the Spellfire set is based around crit, right? Critting a lot. So it's got the 23 crit and the 50 to fire spell and arcane, the 2 sockets. And then its alternative would probably have to be gloves of the Dead Watcher from Heroic. I'm probably gonna butcher this. Akani Crypts, Achene Crypts. I don't know. But yeah, and the boss is Sherock the Dead Watcher. Again, it's got spell hit, not nearly as much spell damage, but it's overall spell damage. It's not just towards your fire and arcane spells, so it is decent. Much more base spell, or much more base stats to give it that. No sockets though, but of course Spellfire is going to be. It's just going to be your BiS. So moving on to your belt, which is Spellfire again, tailoring BOP. If you haven't caught on by now, Spellfire is the way to go. Tailoring, you definitely want to pick that up. If you haven't done it yet, you should do it as soon as you can, because if you wait until TBC, things are going to be gouged. The market's going to be crazy high. It's going to be clusterfuck. So be prepared. So Spellfire belt, again, it's just got the int, no stam, 2 sockets, a meta, a blue. It's got the crit and then the fire spell damage and arcane spell damage. And then its counterpart would probably be, and then your counterpart would probably be Belt of Depravity from Heroic Arcatraz, boss Harbinger Skyrus. It's got hit, which is great. You don't get that from the Spellfire, and you also get base spell damage across all spells. And much more base stats in general as far as stamina and intellect. A huge chunk there. So, decent Belt of Depravity from Heroic Arcatraz, as opposed to the Spellfire Belt. But still, with the full Spellfire set, again, as it says at the bottom, you get increased spell damage by up to 7% of your total intellect. So, it's pretty big. You definitely want the Spellfire set. But, again, if you don't have Tailoring, or you don't... Yeah, if you don't have Tailoring because it's BOP, then Belt of Depravity is definitely your next in line. And moving along to the legs, Spell Strike Pants again, Spell Strike, Spellfire. Good thing is, though, Spell Strike you can buy. And it has a 2-set bonus of gives a chance when your harmful spells land to increase the damage of your spells and effects by 92 for 10 seconds. It's got okay base stats, really on the low side. 12 stamina, 8 int, 3 sockets blue, meta red. It's got crit, it's got hit, which is great. All 3 stats, again, for a mage is what you want, and 46 spell damage. Its counterpart would have to be Breaches of the Oculus from Heroic Black Morass. The boss is Aenus. It's got 2 meta sockets, a blue socket, high base stats, 37 stamina, 22 int, not bad. Crit strike of 23 and 36 spell damage and healing. A good competitor to Spell Strike, but still, again, doesn't beat it. As far as boots go, Extravagant Boots of Malice from Heroic Manitoums, Tavarak. They have 27 stamina, 24 int, some hit, and 30 spell damage. And its competitor, which is Sigil-Laced Boots from Normal Arcatraz, Harbinger Skyrus. Good base stats, red socket, meta socket, crit strike, and base spell damage. So it really depends from these two which one you're really lacking. If you need more hit, then you go with the Malice. If you need more crit and you're good on hit, then go with the Laced Boots. As far as rings, Sparkling Arcanite Ring, which is a blue. Its counterpart, which is Seer's Signet from the Scryers, requires Exalted. Sparkling Arcanite Ring is actually, in my opinion, overall, it is better. The Sparkling Arcanite Ring is better. Even though you get more flat spell damage and crit, you get hit, you still get the crit, you don't lose too much spell damage, and you get some int, which gives you some more crit, and you lose some stam. As far as accessories go, it's really up to you. There's a lot of accessories. There's a lot of gear, really, but there's a lot of accessories. And depending on your professions and everything, it could vary. So, in my opinion, Sparkling Arcanite Ring from Heroic Old Hillsbrad Foothills, Epoch Hunter. That's the Sparkling Arcanite Ring. And then Seer's Signet, again, is Scryer's Exalted. And Trinkets, again, kind of the same with the rings as accessories, but in my opinion, Scryer's Blood Gem would be your first trinket, which is 22 hit, and use increases spell damage by 150 and healing by up to 280 for 15 seconds. That is, hence the name Scryer's Blood Gem, from the Scryer's revered reputation. Your second trinket that I would recommend would be Heroic Slave Pins Quagmoron. Increases your spell damage and healing by up to 37, base flat, and then also your harmful spells have a chance to increase your spell haste rating by 320 for 6 seconds. Not that long of a time span, but 320 haste is huge. So if your fireball is casting at a 3-second speed, that's going to basically make your fireball like 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, something like that. It's going to be a huge haste rating, which means you can pump out 2 or 3 fireballs real quick. As far as your wand, Nethercore's Control Rod from our Normal Arcatraz, Dahlia the Doomsayer. Hits pretty good. Shadow Wand, decent speed. Stamina and int for the base stats. Hit of 8 and spell damage and healing by up to 13. Nice little stat stick. Overall, not bad. Maybe even better or close rival, the Blackstalk from Heroic Underbog, the Black Stalker. You lose a little bit of base stats. You get crit instead of hit. So again, it's one of those situations where... I actually take that back. Pre Raid BiS, number 1 would be the Black Stalk, Heroic Underbog, the Black Stalker. And then your alternative would be Nether Core's Control Rod from Arcatraz, Dahlia the Doomslayer, or Dahlia the Doomslayer. And for weapons, your Pre Raid BiS would be Greatsword of Horrid Dreams from Shadow Labs, Murmur, which is decent base stats, nice little hit rating, 130 spell damage. Alternative would probably be, and even a little, well, maybe not easier to get, but Keepers of Time rep you get relatively easy, would be Continuum Blade from Keepers of Time Revered rep, which is, again, spell hit, just like the other one. Not as much, spell hit, and then 121 spell damage and healing with 30 stam, 11 int. The Continuum Blade, from the looks of it, really is more of like a paladin weapon because of the high stam. Maybe if you're a PvP mage or something like that, you could do that on a mage. But your Great Sword of Horrid Dreams is definitely what you want as far as a mage goes, and then Continuum Blade as your alternative. And then for your offhand, you would want to go with Flame Tongue Seal, which requires 25 Badge of Justice, which you can buy from the vendor in, not the Justice, the item, Flame Tongue Seal, you can buy from the vendor in Shatrath. The Badge of Justice you can get from doing heroic dungeons, and you get 1 Badge of Justice, or is it 2 per the end boss? I know you get 1 Badge of Justice for sure per boss in heroics. And then the alternative to the Flame Tongue Seal would be Lamp of Peaceful Radiance from normal Arcatraz, Hardbringer, Skyrus. Again, as a mage, it's got all the stats you want. It's got the decent base stats, it's got the 12 hit rating, 13 crit, and 21 spell damage and healing. And then let's say you don't want to go a main hand or an offhand, you want to go a two-hander. As far as two-handers go, your BiS two-hander, which I would recommend going a main hander or an offhander, but that's just me, that's the type of mage I am. You can do whatever you want. As far as two-handers though, Sherock's Shadow Staff from Heroic Seth Call's Talon King Ikiss. 37 crit rating, 168 spell damage, and a chunk load of base stats, 40 stam, 42 int, of course, because it's a two-hander. And then its counterpart would have to be Warp Staff of Arcanum from normal Botanica Warp Splinter, which is basically the same as Sherock's Shadow Staff, but obviously less stats overall, and it doesn't have, or the Sherock Shadow Staff doesn't have the hit rating, but it has much more crit and much more spell damage, so that's why it's ranked as number 2. I'll see you guys in the next video.